Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that everything you once believed about yourself, your limits, your past, your struggles, was nothing more than a story you've been telling yourself. Imagine if in just one night you could rewrite that story, not as a prisoner of your past, but as the creator of your future. For most of your life, you've been conditioned to believe that change takes time, that transformation is difficult, and that you are defined by your circumstances. But what if none of that were true? What if in a single night you could break free from everything that has held you back, your fears, your doubts, your limitations, and step into a new reality, one where you are no longer reacting to life, but creating it? Science has proven that the brain does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It responds not to the past, but to the signals you give it in the present. What if, for one night, you could harness this power, shift your mind, change your energy, and awaken in a reality that is completely different from the one you've always known? Because if you do, you will never be the same again. A single shift in consciousness has the power to completely alter the trajectory of your life. Most people believe that change is a slow, painstaking process requiring years of effort and struggle, but the truth is, transformation can happen in an instant. It takes just one profound moment, one realization, one breakthrough to shift the way you think, feel, and perceive the world. The mind is like a vast landscape, shaped by past experiences, memories, and emotions. Every day, we wake up as the same person, thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and performing the same actions, reinforcing the identity we have built over time. But what if, for just one night, you could break free from that pattern? What if, in just a few hours, you could transcend the limitations of your past and step into a new version of yourself? The reason why a single shift in consciousness can be so powerful is because the brain operates like a complex electrical network, constantly firing and wiring connections based on what we repeatedly experience. When we have a profound experience, whether through deep meditation, a powerful emotional release, or an intense realization, something remarkable happens. The brain rewires itself in real time. Neural pathways that were once fixed begin to reorganize, and entirely new circuits begin to form. In that moment, the old self dissolves and a new self begins to take shape. Most people do not realize that their current state of being is simply a result of their past conditioning. They carry the weight of their history, replaying old memories and reliving past emotions, often without even knowing it. Their identity is tied to familiar thoughts, predictable behaviors, and habitual feelings. But when someone experiences a true shift in consciousness, they momentarily break free from that conditioning. They step beyond the habitual self and enter a state of expanded awareness, where they are no longer bound by the past. This is why people who have had profound spiritual or meditative experiences often describe them as life-changing. In one moment, they see reality differently. They feel a sense of deep connection, of infinite possibilities, of overwhelming love or peace. That feeling is not just an illusion, it is a direct experience of a higher state of being. And because the brain does not distinguish between an experience that happens in the external world and one that is vividly real in the internal world, the impact of that moment is encoded deeply into their neurology. Imagine a person who has been trapped in fear for years, believing they are unworthy, stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and limitation. They have reinforced these thoughts for so long that they feel like an unchangeable part of their personality. But one night, something shifts. Maybe they experience a powerful meditation where for the first time they feel truly free. Maybe they have a deep emotional release that allows them to let go of past pain. Maybe they suddenly realize beyond a doubt that they have always been more than their fears. In that moment, something changes in their brain. The old neural pathways that kept them locked in fear begin to weaken, and new ones, associated with confidence, possibility, and self-worth, start to form. This is not just a psychological phenomenon, it is a biological reality. Studies have shown that intense emotional experiences can cause lasting changes in the brain's neurochemistry. When we experience something deeply moving, we activate networks in the brain that release neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, reinforcing the new emotional state. If that experience is strong enough, the change is encoded at a deep level, making it easier to sustain a new way of thinking and feeling. The power of a single shift in consciousness lies in the fact that it creates a new reference point. Before that moment, a person may have believed change was impossible, but after experiencing something so profound, they can no longer deny the reality of transformation. Even if old habits try to pull them back, they now know at the core of their being that another way of existing is possible. That knowledge alone begins to alter their future. When someone has a breakthrough moment, the energy of that experience doesn't fade away, it leaves an imprint. It disrupts the old patterns, allowing a new self to emerge. The more intense and meaningful the shift, the harder it is to return to the old ways of thinking and being. That is why people who experience powerful shifts in consciousness often say that they are never the same again. They have glimpsed a new reality, and once they have seen it, they cannot unsee it. This is why a single night can change everything. It does not take years of effort to transform. It takes a moment of deep alignment, a moment of realization, a moment where everything clicks into place. And in that moment, the brain rewires, the body responds, and life itself begins to shift in an entirely new direction. Breaking free from the past is not just about letting go of memories. It is about releasing the emotional and neurological patterns that keep a person trapped in the same reality. Every thought, every emotion, and every action we repeat creates a loop in the brain. Over time, these loops become hardwired, forming a personal identity that seems unchangeable. But the truth is, this identity is simply a reflection of the past, projected into the present moment. Most people wake up every day thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and repeating the same behaviors, all of which reinforce the same reality. It is as if they are living in a program, running on autopilot, unaware that they have the power to break free. Emotions from past experiences are stored in the body, creating an unconscious blueprint for how a person reacts to life. When someone has experienced pain, betrayal, failure, or trauma, the body memorizes those emotions, and they become the baseline for how that person interacts with the world. Even if nothing negative is happening in the present moment, the body may still be living in the past, triggering anxiety, doubt, or sadness without an obvious reason. This is why people often find themselves stuck in cycles they cannot seem to escape. They are not just remembering the past, they are reliving it emotionally over and over again. The process of breaking free from the past requires disrupting these patterns. The first step is awareness. Recognizing that the thoughts and emotions dominating the mind are not necessarily a reflection of the present, but echoes of old experiences. When a person becomes aware of their internal programming, they gain the power to change it. The challenge is that the body resists this change because it has become addicted to familiar emotional states. If someone has lived with guilt for years, for example, their nervous system becomes conditioned to that state. Even if they consciously want to feel happy, their body may unconsciously seek out situations that trigger guilt just to maintain the emotional homeostasis it is used to. To truly break free, a person must step beyond their old self, beyond the emotions and beliefs that have kept them anchored in the past. This requires creating a gap between the observer and the observed. When a person observes their own thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them, they weaken the automatic grip of those patterns. Instead of being consumed by fear, they see fear as an old program. Instead of drowning in sadness, they recognize sadness as a conditioned response. This shift in perspective is powerful because it creates space for something new to emerge. Breaking free from the past is not just about letting go of memories. It is about releasing the emotional and neurological patterns that keep a person trapped in the same reality. Every thought, every emotion, and every action we repeat creates a loop in the brain. Over time, these loops become hardwired, forming a personal identity that seems unchangeable. But the truth is, this identity is simply a reflection of the past, projected into the present moment. Most people wake up every day thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and repeating the same behaviors, all of which reinforce the same reality. It is as if they are living in a program, running on autopilot, unaware that they have the power to break free. Emotions from past experiences are stored in the body, creating an unconscious blueprint for how a person reacts to life. When someone has experienced pain, betrayal, failure, or trauma, the body memorizes those emotions, and they become the baseline for how that person interacts with the world. Even if nothing negative is happening in the present moment, the body may still be living in the past, triggering anxiety, doubt, or sadness without an obvious reason. This is why people often find themselves stuck in cycles they cannot seem to escape. They are not just remembering the past, they are reliving it emotionally over and over again. The process of breaking free from the past requires disrupting these patterns. The first step is awareness, recognizing that the thoughts and emotions dominating the mind are not necessarily a reflection of the present, but echoes of old experiences. When a person becomes aware of their internal programming, they gain the power to change it. The challenge is that the body resists this change because it has become addicted to familiar emotional states. If someone has lived with guilt for years, for example, their nervous system becomes conditioned to that state. Even if they consciously want to feel happy, their body may unconsciously seek out situations that trigger guilt just to maintain the emotional homeostasis it is used to. To truly break free, a person must step beyond their old self, beyond the emotions and beliefs that have kept them anchored in the past. This requires creating a gap between the observer and the observed. When a person observes their own thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them, they weaken the automatic grip of those patterns. Instead of being consumed by fear, they see fear as an old program. Instead of drowning in sadness, they recognize sadness as a conditioned response. This shift in perspective is powerful because it creates space for something new to emerge. The next step is replacing old emotional patterns with new, elevated emotions. The brain does not change simply by resisting old thoughts. It changes by embracing new ones. When a person intentionally generates feelings of gratitude, joy, or love, they send new signals to the brain and body, activating circuits that were previously dormant. These elevated emotions act as an antidote to the past. A person cannot be deeply grateful and deeply fearful at the same time. They cannot feel abundant and unworthy simultaneously. By repeatedly practicing elevated emotional states, they begin to override the old programming and condition the body to a new way of being. A critical part of this process is stepping into the unknown. The past is familiar, predictable, and safe, even if it is painful. The future, on the other hand, is uncertain. Most people cling to the past not because they want to, but because it feels more certain than stepping into something new. But transformation requires stepping into the unknown, into a space where the old self no longer exists and a new self has yet to be fully formed. This is where the magic happens. When a person lets go of who they were and fully embraces the possibility of who they can become, they enter a state of pure potential. In this state, the brain begins to rewire at an accelerated rate. New neural connections form, old ones dissolve, and the body starts responding to a different set of instructions. This is not just a psychological shift, it is a biological reality. The nervous system recalibrates, stress hormones decrease, and the immune system strengthens. The body no longer lives in survival mode, reacting to past threats that no longer exist. Instead, it moves into a state of balance and harmony, allowing the mind and body to align with a new future. The key to sustaining this change is repetition. The past has been reinforced through years of unconscious conditioning, so breaking free from it requires conscious effort. Every time a person catches themselves falling back into an old emotional state and chooses a new response instead, they weaken the old connections in the brain and strengthen new ones. Over time, this new way of thinking and feeling becomes the new normal. The old self fades and a new self emerges, not as an idea, but as a lived reality. Tapping into infinite potential begins with understanding that every human being is far greater than their current circumstances, emotions, and perceived limitations. Most people live their lives based on what they believe is possible, shaped by past experiences, societal conditioning, and self-imposed limitations. They wake up every morning expecting life to be the same, thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and repeating the same actions. This cycle reinforces a familiar reality, keeping them confined to what they already know. But what if, for just one night, they could break that pattern and step into a completely new way of being? The key to accessing infinite potential is shifting one's awareness beyond the physical, beyond the external conditions, and into the realm of possibility. Every thought and emotion generates a frequency, a signal that interacts with the energy field around us. The more a person focuses on lack, fear, or limitation, the more they attract experiences that match that frequency. But when they elevate their thoughts and emotions, when they tune into gratitude, love, joy, or empowerment, they send out an entirely different signal, aligning themselves with a future that holds greater possibilities. The challenge is that most people are deeply conditioned to believe that reality is fixed, that change is difficult, and that they are defined by their past. This belief system becomes a prison, confining them to what they have always known. Breaking free from this mindset requires stepping beyond the analytical mind and accessing the subconscious, where true transformation takes place. The subconscious is the part of the brain that governs automatic behaviors, emotional reactions, and deeply ingrained beliefs. It does not respond to logic or reasoning. It responds to experiences, emotions, and repetition. This is why deep meditation, visualization, and intense emotional experiences have the power to rewire the brain. When a person immerses themselves in a new emotional state, when they deeply feel the excitement of their future, the joy of success, the freedom of abundance, the subconscious begins to accept that new reality as truth. The body, which is always listening to the mind, starts to respond as if the future has already happened. Neuroscience has shown that the brain does not differentiate between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined. When a person mentally rehearses an experience with full emotional intensity, their brain fires the same neural circuits as if the event were actually happening. This means that by repeatedly focusing on a desired outcome and truly embodying the emotions associated with it, a person is actively reshaping their brain and body to align with that future. Over time, the external world begins to reflect these internal changes, and opportunities, synchronicities, and unexpected breakthroughs start to appear. Accessing infinite potential also requires letting go of the need to control every detail of how transformation will unfold. The analytical mind wants certainty, predictability, and logic, but true transformation occurs in the unknown. The greatest breakthroughs happen when a person surrenders to a state of trust, allowing themselves to be guided by intuition rather than fear. The moment they stop trying to force outcomes and instead focus on embodying the elevated emotions of their desired future, they create space for new possibilities to enter their life. A person's energy field extends beyond their physical body. The heart, in particular, generates a powerful electromagnetic field that influences not only their own biology, but also their interactions with the external world. When someone consistently radiates elevated emotions, such as love, joy, or inspiration, their field expands and they naturally attract experiences and people that resonate with that frequency. This is why some individuals seem to experience effortless success, synchronicities, and opportunities. They have trained themselves to exist in a state of elevated awareness, aligning with higher possibilities. Tapping into infinite potential is not about hoping for change or wishing for a better future. It is about becoming the person who already lives in that reality. Every thought, every emotion, and every action must be aligned with the desired outcome. When a person consistently embodies the energy of their future self, they send a signal to the quantum field, drawing that reality toward them. This process is not mystical or magical. It is the natural outcome of shifting consciousness and aligning thoughts and emotions with a greater possibility. The key to sustaining this shift is consistency. It is easy to fall back into old habits, to be pulled into the familiar emotions of the past, or to be influenced by external circumstances. But every time a person chooses to remain in an elevated state, every time they refuse to react to old triggers, every time they focus on their vision instead of their doubts, they reinforce new neural pathways and condition their body to a new way of being. Over time, the external world begins to reflect these internal changes, and what once seemed impossible becomes the new reality. The science of transformation is rooted in the understanding that the brain and body are not static. They are in a constant state of change, responding to thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Every moment, the brain is wiring and rewiring itself based on what a person repeatedly thinks, feels, and does. Most people unknowingly reinforce the same neural patterns every day, living in a predictable loop of familiar thoughts, emotional reactions, and behaviors. This cycle creates a biological state that keeps them tied to their past, making real change seem difficult or even impossible. However, when a person deliberately shifts their thoughts and emotions, they send new signals to the brain and body, initiating a process of transformation that has been scientifically proven to alter the way they function at a fundamental level. At the core of this transformation is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and reorganize itself. Neurons, the cells that make up the brain, communicate through electrical impulses, forming connections based on repeated experiences. When a person thinks the same thoughts and feels the same emotions, these neural connections become stronger, making certain patterns automatic. This is why deeply ingrained habits and emotional responses feel so difficult to change. However, when a person introduces new thoughts, focuses on new possibilities, and experiences elevated emotions, the brain begins to fire in new ways. New neural pathways form and old ones weaken, allowing a different version of the self to emerge. Another key aspect of transformation is neurochemistry. Every thought and emotion triggers a chemical reaction in the body. When a person constantly thinks about past failures, disappointments, or fears, their brain releases stress chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals create a feedback loop, reinforcing negative emotional states and keeping the body in survival mode. Over time, this stress-based state weakens the immune system, disrupts digestion, and leads to chronic fatigue, anxiety, or depression. In contrast, when a person shifts their focus to thoughts of joy, gratitude, or empowerment, the brain releases positive neurochemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These chemicals promote feelings of well-being, enhance creativity, and strengthen the immune system. By consciously choosing elevated emotions, a person can biologically shift their state of being, conditioning their body to a new reality. Beyond the brain, transformation also involves the heart. Research in neurocardiology has shown that the heart has its own intelligence, generating an electromagnetic field that influences both the brain and the body. When a person experiences elevated emotions such as love, appreciation, or compassion, the heart enters a state of coherence, producing a smooth and harmonious rhythm. This coherence signals the brain to shift out of stress mode and into a state of balance, enhancing mental clarity, decision-making, and emotional resilience. When the heart and brain work together in harmony, the body enters a state of optimal function, creating the ideal conditions for transformation. The process of transformation also extends to gene expression. Epigenetics, the study of how environmental factors influence gene activity, has revealed that genes are not fixed instructions. They are dynamic, responding to thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. When a person consistently experiences stress, their body activates genes associated with inflammation, aging, and disease. However, when they shift into elevated emotional states, they activate genes linked to regeneration, longevity, and healing. This means that a person has the ability to influence their biological destiny, not through external interventions, but through internal changes in thought and emotion. A crucial element in transformation is the role of the subconscious mind. While the conscious mind operates through logic and reasoning, the subconscious governs automatic behaviors, deep-seated beliefs, and emotional responses. It is programmed through repetition and experience, which is why transformation requires more than just positive thinking. It requires an immersive experience that imprints new patterns into the subconscious. Visualization, meditation, and deep emotional engagement are powerful tools in this process, allowing a person to bypass the analytical mind and communicate directly with the subconscious. When a person vividly imagines a desired future with full emotional intensity, their subconscious begins to accept it as reality, influencing their thoughts, behaviors, and even physiological responses. Another scientific principle that supports transformation is quantum physics, specifically the idea that consciousness influences reality. Studies in quantum mechanics have demonstrated that the act of observation affects the behavior of subatomic particles, suggesting that the mind has a direct impact on the material world. This aligns with the concept that a person's thoughts and emotions create a vibrational frequency that interacts with the energy field around them. When a person consistently focuses on a specific intention while maintaining an elevated emotional state, they create a coherent energy pattern that attracts experiences aligned with that frequency. This is not just philosophy, it is a measurable phenomenon that has been observed in scientific experiments. The final component of transformation is the importance of action. While thoughts and emotions create the internal foundation for change, action is what solidifies it into reality. When a person repeatedly steps into the behaviors of their future self, whether by making different choices, embracing new habits, or taking bold steps toward their vision, they reinforce new neural pathways and condition their body to a new way of being. Each action sends a signal to the brain and body confirming that change is real. Over time, this consistent alignment between thoughts, emotions, and actions rewires the brain and reshapes the entire biological system, making transformation not only possible, but inevitable.